Rach, we're going to talk about one of your famous artists, one of the people that you encourage me to listen to.
Yes.
Every time I walk past your desk, I can hear the songs blaring out from the computer.
Shaming me on live TV.
Tell me about her.
Yeah, Mojo Juju's deadly. She's been around for a long time, right? So she used to be front of a band, and she's been a solo artist in her own right, performing, releasing quite a few albums, and this year, 2018, has been her year. Do you remember earlier in July when she released that Native Tongue video clip? I think it was May, actually.
Amazing film clip.
Amazing film clip.
Mala?
Juki Mala dancing behind her. And basically what's changed this time around is she's gone real personal, and she's telling the story about her history, about her family. It's really opened up a side of her which a lot of critics have said they haven't seen before, which I think is really beautiful. She's one of my favourite artists. Unfortunately, I didn't get to do this interview. But NITV producer Matty Webb, he had a little chat with Mojo Juju, and he started by asking her a little bit about her background.
Your mum's Wiradjuri.
Yep.
Your dad's from the Philippines. How important are both of those heritages?
Oh, extremely important. On the album that I just put out, you know, a lot of that for me was about kind of recognising and talking about those relationships with ancestors and relationships with elders, and how their stories and their experiences inform who I am today and how I move through the world, and, like, you know, inherited trauma as well as, like, inherited kind of strength. I don't know where I belong. I've lost both my grandparents on my dad's side. I realised, you know, there's this urgency to tell those stories. I think oral traditions are a big part of our culture, and as a musician, it kind of is my job to, like, keep those, you know, those oral histories alive. And I wanted to be able to tell those stories while I still had access to them firsthand from my grandparents. So, and my grandparents kind of, you know, they had a big hand in raising me, and so they're two of my favourite people in the world. So I was like, I've got to get to them and tell their stories, like, while I can. Off the back of my last album, I was doing some interviews, and there was one particular instance. You might have heard me tell the story before about how someone who was interviewing me said, look, I'm surprised you've been successful because you're a queer woman of colour. And that's really, and that's really confronting. And I went, you know what? You can't separate the politics from my identity. Because as a First Nations person, as a second generation person, as a third culture person, and as a queer person, like, all of these things make up who I am. Absolutely. And other people are always going to view me within a context of the politics of that identity. So I was like, okay, well, we're going to talk about it, but we're going to talk about it on my terms. And that's going to be on this album. Like, I'm going to start, you know, or it's going to be through my music. The moon was like a great big apple. There's appropriation in music all the time. And so much of my music is influenced by American music and Black American music, and that definitely comes through my work. And it's like, I think that is an inevitable effect of living in the world with other people. You do have cultural exchange.
Yeah.
One roll you, baby, like your back ain't got a spine.
We've just wrapped the Dreamtime Awards.
Yeah.
And you won Female Artist of the Year. What does that feel like?
It's really overwhelming for me, and it probably means more to me than any other nomination or award that I could think of right now. You know, it's like to have the embrace and support and encouragement of our community. There's a lot of sadness for me around it, because I've often felt like an outsider, you know, everywhere in my life. And I know I've had a lot of people, a lot of mob support me, but I've also, you know, had instances where I've had people question who I am. And I think to have that support and that embrace is really important to me. Earlier this year, I was really honoured to be invited to do a showcase with the Bad Apples crew, and you know, just like there's so much going on, like Dreaming Now, Birds, Briggs, like AB Originals, Kate, like there's so many incredibly talented young black fellas coming up like with powerful message in their music, and I think it's impossible for people to ignore now.
But thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks
it's
for
lovely
having
to meet you. Thanks.